my name is Tara Gray, and we are here at Vintage Wine and Spirits at Lake Balboa, California. I'm here with
Lester Brown, Master Distiller at Templeton Rye.
And we're here to talk to you about all of our wonderful whiskeys.
Thank you. So what we brought here is a selection of 5 whiskeys, and I should be stand corrected. It's Templeton Distillery. Not only do we make rye, we also are making bourbons, and we'll get into that shortly. So the first opportunity that we have is something called the straight rye whiskey. If you recall in the past, Templeton Rye had a 4-year whiskey. This replaces the 4-year. It's a straight rye whiskey. It's chill filtered. It's 90 proof. Reason for the change is a lot of people wanted a higher proof cocktail with a more bold taste. There's no age statement on the bottle, so it implies it's 4 years, and yes, it is 4 years or greater. So when you try the whiskey, the first thing you'll notice compared to the our once 4-year is you get that sweet smell of seasoned rye comes out right away. If you open up your...
Why are you chill filtering it at 90 proof?
Oh, so one of the reasons, so the reason for the change is we chill filter because when you go to 90 proof, if you're at 90 proof or below, you'll get some haze in the bottle. You'll get some esters, some proteins that'll settle out in the bottle. So chill filtering is typically used at about 92 proof or less, so you don't get haze in the bottle. We also, the 90 proof is primarily because for people making cocktails, they found 80 proof was a little too low for them. They liked a higher proof, and the higher proof also brings out a lot of the fruit notes in the rye. So by request from the public, we went to 90 proof. So the first thing you smell when you smell the 90 proof is green label rye is you notice right away the sweet seasoned rye smell. From there, you'll pick up notes of fruit. The 4-year had a lot of fruit notes of grapes and apples. This still has that, but it starts transitioning into the red fruits as well, the cherries primarily. So as you smell it, try a little sip, and exactly what you think. It's sweet rye spice. It slowly lingers into some fruit, the red cherries, and then on the back end of your palate, you start picking up some butterscotch, a little bit of chocolate, and finally it almost has like a honey feel to it. The second offering that we have is already in the market that we've had since 2015. It's Templeton 6-year. 6-year whiskey again is chill filtered. It's 91.5 proof. It's a product that's been around for a while. And again, this, similar to the 4-year, has a lot of red cherry notes to it. The one thing that's different about it is the spice is a lot more tame. The extra 2 years actually tones down the spice a little bit. And this is great for a Manhattan. It's great for a straight sipper. Again, smell it. You smell the sweet rye spice. The taste, right away you'll notice that the spice is a lot toner. It's a lot sweeter. And then it finishes off, you get more butterscotch, and you start picking up some semi-sweet chocolate notes. Our third introduction, I'm proud to say, is Templeton's own distillate. In 2018, we built a plant, we started up, and we started making rye whiskey. 2019, we got to a point where we had excess production capacity, and we thought, how can we fill it? Well, being in Iowa, we have some of the greatest corn in the country, so why not make a bourbon? So we took corn, and fun fact, the corn used for this batch of Fortitude, the first batch of corn we got, is literally out of my backyard. I went to the neighbor, one said, I need some corn. We went to his silo, we tested the corn. And to test corn, you have to heat it up and you have to smell it. It's got to smell like sweet butter popcorn. When you have that smell of corn, that makes the whiskey you want. You just can't go to any farmer and say, I want corn. You can't go to a co-op. You have to source the right grains. So the secret to the bourbon is sourcing of the corn. The bourbon is 92 proof. It is our own distillate. It is 4 years old. The one thing you'll notice right away when you smell it, so let me talk about the mash bill. Mash bill is 55% corn, 40% rye, 5% malted barley.
You talk about the grains being a priority. Can you briefly talk to us about the rye and barley you're using?
Correct. So corn, being from Iowa, We source rye, it has to be the right rye. It's got to be really sweet and spicy and seasoned. Rye has to, for that qualities, the rye we buy comes from up north, actually comes from Canada. At first, when we started up the plant, we were getting rye from Germany. Why? Because it was the best rye on the market. Germany had a drought. We ended up finding a supplier in Canada. Canada grows the rye. We've tried rye from Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, California. When you have rye, as you go north, the climate gets cooler. When the climate gets cooler, the rice grain gets spicier. So to get the spice we want, we have to go up north. It would be ideal if we could find it
Sorry,
in
did you
Iowa.
say the rye grain or the rice?
Sorry, the rye grain. Did it sound like rice?
It sounded like rice.
Sorry. As you go north, the rye grain gets spicier. So if you tried a wheated rye or a rye out of California, you'll notice it's very mellow, very plain, whereas you try a Templeton rye, it has a lot of spice to it. That spice is grown in a northern climate that's cold. We would ideally love to source all our grains in the Northwest or Midwest, but we can't find the right rye. It has to be grown up north in a cool climate. The malted barley we get is actually grown in Wyoming, and it's malted in Wisconsin. Again, we use a supplier, Breese. They make some great malted rye, or malted barley, and it's one of the key components that we use. Malted barley adds twofold. It adds that cereal notes to your whiskey, and it also provides alpha amylase, which is used in the breakdown of starches to help make the whiskey. So that's why malted barley is always used in whiskey production, is because it helps break down starches and gives you a little higher yield. And the residual from the grain actually gives you that seasoned cereal taste. So the bourbon, like I said, 92 proof, distilled in Templeton. So everything's sourced, or the corn is sourced in Templeton. We cook it, ferment it, distill it. The main thing when you smell it, you get that smell of rye right off the bat, hence the high rye mash bill.
How long are your ferment times for the bourbon?
So Templeton rye bourbon, actually all our products are fermented 4.5 to 5.5 days. Templeton Rye Distillery will produce 8,500 barrels a year. The 8,500 barrels a year we have broken down into 5 main categories. 2 that you know of, we have our Templeton Rye, the 95.5 mash bill. We have the bourbon, which I'm presenting right now, which is 55% corn, 40% rye, 5% malted barley. We also, after making 1,069 barrels, we decided, let's make a bourbon that has a low rye mash bill. So not to compete with our rye, because you get rye taste or the sensation of rye in both. Let's tone it down. So we came out with a 75% corn, 17% rye, 8% malt barley mash bill. Again, you can imagine that has a lot more sweetness. Increasing the malt barley gives it a lot more of that cereal grain smell. That will be available in probably 1 to 2 years. Then just last year we decided, typical rye on the market is 95.5. MGP makes them. There's a lot of companies who are out there making it. Again, to piggyback off that Iowa makes corn, let's go ahead and make rye with a mash bill that includes corn. So last year we started producing a 70% rye, 20% corn, 10% malted barley mash bill. So that'll be ready in about 4 years' time, unless we do a bottled in bond or some other special release, it may be a bit longer. So we make 2,000 barrels of each of that. The 95.5 rye, the 70-20-10 rye, 2,000 barrels of Fortitude bourbon, and then 2,000 barrels of the low rye bourbon. So the last 500 barrels I get to play with. So this year we are looking at doing a single malt. So we're going to be later on in the year using 500 barrels processing single malt and putting them in a used barrel. And those will probably be sitting around for about 10 years. Did I do the tasting notes on the bourbon? So bourbon tasting notes right away when you smell it. You get that sweet rye spice, but you'll notice it's a lot more sweeter. It's a very bold product. Immediately coming through is sweet rye. And as it slowly goes down your palate, you'll notice the rye dissipates. And it goes right into almost like a sweet honey finish. This again is great straight. It's great in, I like it in old fashions. Absolute great product. Again, distilled in Templeton. The fourth product is on the market, 10-year single barrel. So fun fact, of all the single barrels, I actually try every barrel that we have for the 10-year. I think we had about 104 barrels in stock. Try them all, and if it was a product that I would be disappointed if I bought, it did not go in a bottle. So we did about 40 barrels of 10-year single barrel. It's 104 proof. Again, the great thing about the 10-year is if we look at the transition from 4, you get the front, you get the spice forward, 6-year tones it down. You can imagine the 10-year brings it down. The great thing about the 10 years on the back end, the taste, you get a ton of cherries up front, and then it slowly lingers into butterscotch and a very nice semi-sweet chocolate finish. Again, a great for straight sipping on the rocks at 104 proof. It's one of the best whiskeys out there on the market, in my opinion. We did win an award on it. It was, do you want to come join me? Do you remember what it was?
I believe it was one of the, sorry, I don't remember.
Oh.
Top of my head, sorry.
Do you want to see what it was? Can you look it up? Want to share it because...
Pause and let him grab his whiskey. He's like, ah! Oh, thank God.
Yeah, I know we, yeah, sorry. Let me Google
Sorry.
it real quick, sorry.
All right.
You pause it and then Google it.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, you can fix it later on. Sorry, let me get the...
I'll start out again this. Oh yeah, try some. Do you want to try some? Do you want one?
I've had everything except the bourbon, which I'll try at the end. How long have you been in Templeton?
I've been there, it'll be 10 years this year.
Yes.
Oh, so you know
we,
beach
just,
then, probably.
we just won the Best American Rye Whiskey at the London Spirits Competition.
London Spirits Competition.
All right.
Best rye. All right.
And
10-year product. So do you want me to start from the beginning? All right. So next up is Templeton Rye 10-year. So 10-year is a single barrel product. At the time, we had about 104 barrels in stock. We tasted through them. We picked the best 40, and we put them in a barrel. If it did not meet, if I would be disappointed having a bottle of whiskey, I would not put it in a barrel. So these have all been tasted through. It is 104 proof. The nice thing about the 10-year, it's a great straight sipper or on the rocks. When we talked about the straight rye whiskey, very rye forward. 6-year, it settled it down a bit, started picking up more red fruit. Got a little bit of butterscotch, a little chocolate. You can imagine now the 10-year, rye is very well tamed. On the back end, you get a lot of cherry notes, followed by a lot of butterscotch, semi-sweet chocolate, and you start picking up a little oak, a little char on the back end. Delicious product. It actually won Best Rye Whiskey at the London Spirits Awards. So 98 rating is what it gave, so please give it a try. Last product to talk about is Midnight Rye. So this is a contraption that I developed. From the start of development to when it came out in the market took 7 months. A lot of innovation went in it. So when we talk about innovation, we look at what can we do different. There's barrel casks that you can do on the market that we've done. We've done some maple syrup. We've done some rum barrels. We've done some Oloroso sherry barrels. So next up was let's try basically using a fortified product and adding it to rye. So we looked at California port. So Midnight Rye is actually a blend. I can't be specific on the amount, but it's let's say it's between 5 and 10% port in rye whiskey. So we actually add port to rye, and it has to be the right rye whiskey. You want the port and the rye to balance itself out, and that's exactly what this does. This again starts off with that nice bite of rye whiskey, and then immediately goes into notes of cherries and also figs. And then it finishes with almost a hazelnut chocolate finish. Very highly encourage you to try it. It's something very unique on the marketplace. Again, go straight. Drinking it straight is awesome. I also like it in a Manhattan. I'll use 2 parts of this midnight rye with 1 part of Casals or a sweet vermouth. I don't use any bitters because if you put bitters in, I think you have enough from the port and the rye itself. I take a splash of cherry juice, throw a cherry in, and that is my Manhattan for the evening. So that is midnight rye. Do you want to wrap it up now?